Welcome attendees. My name is Alex Mallet. I'm the Director of Development for Folk Alliance International. Thanks for joining us for this panel presented by Folk Alliance International for Folk Unlocked. Before we begin, let us take a moment to acknowledge that we are joined today by folks from around the globe and that we recognize the necessity, importance, complexity, and difficulty of land acknowledgements in the context of online organizing, creation, and collaboration. So we invite you to join us in acknowledging our shared responsibility to make good use of this time and for each of us to consider our roles in reconciliation, decolonization, and active allyship. Further, I acknowledge that I am tuning in from Kansas City, Missouri, on the ancestral indigenous land of the Osage and Kansa nations. We hope you'll participate today by sharing your thoughts and questions in the chat right next to this window. This panel is being recorded and will be available for viewing for the remainder of the conference once it has aired. Now I'd like to hand it over to Lisa Whytock from Showcase Scotland Expo to moderate this discussion. Thanks for joining us, Lisa, and for your hard work in bringing this panel and program together for everyone here at Folk Unlocked.
Very much, Alex. It's great to be here, and it's brilliant to be able to bring to the wider folk community a bit more information and in-depth understanding of the project Global Music Match. I've got with me a number of brilliant people, all of whom came together to participate in the very first version of Global Music Match, and you'll be hearing from them later. But just to run through who they are, we have Chloe Goodyear, who was one of the coaches of Global Music Match. And Chloe is based in Canada, but is from Australia and is the creative director of the Woodfordia Folk Festival. We've also got Svavar from Iceland. And Svavar is a brilliant musician that was part of Team One. We also have Lady Nade from my neighbouring nation of England. We've got Charly Lowry from the US of A. Hi, Charlie. And we have also got Marta from Las MIGAS, all the way in Catalonia. So we're going to be telling you a bit about Global Music Match and hoping to give you some insight into what we all feel was a remarkably innovative and new project that managed to connect artists and the music industry from 14 different countries during a time when we couldn't physically meet in person. So, as Alex said, my name's Lisa Whytock and I am the creative producer of Showcase Scotland Expo, Scotland's export organisation for folk, world and roots music. And in April, I happened to be stuck in Thailand, trying to get back from a vacation in Thailand. And after having booked 5 flights and only successfully arriving back in Scotland after flight number 6, one of the first people that I phoned was my good friend Millie Milgate from Sounds Australia. And her and I got chatting and were scratching our heads saying there has to be a way that the music industry and artists can still stay connected and introduce each other to new people and new audiences throughout this world pandemic. And that was the beginning of Global Music Match. We then got in touch with various different export organisations and friends from around the world, including other founding partners, the ECMA in Canada. And for a few weeks, we worked up this crazy idea to connect 96 artists from 14 different countries in teams and groups of musicians that would benefit from the use of the internet and benefit from that in new ways. And that was the beginning. It seemed so simple. It seemed such a simple idea to start off with, and actually working through the process was not easy. There's a lot more to think about than initially meets the eye. It's a lot more than simply introducing people through social media. So I think I'm going to ask Chloe to kind of to say a wee bit about how she felt about the beginning of Global Music Match, because Chloe was very much involved with us in the pilot edition of the project. And Chloe, how did you feel the beginning of it went?
I was just laughing to myself while you were saying it was more complicated than we thought it would be. I think it was probably the case that when things started, we still didn't really know what we were working with. Like, we knew there were no stages, we knew there were no festivals, but realizing exactly what it was that the artists had as currency and as a platform was social media in the digital space. But artists were also working out how to use that in a different way. So putting those things to use for another project in its pilot run at a time when there was a lot of debate over kind of protecting live performance and what should be valued and what should go up for free. There was just so much to work through. And I think we spent an inordinate amount of time trying to work out ways that would be really equitable in terms of matching the artists, in terms of style, in terms of even the countries, and which export body could put up which number of artists to be involved in it, how many artists we could even support, what the support would look like. It was such an unknown, and every time we would solve a problem, kind of a whole other group of talking points would come up. And so I think reflecting on that now, something that is still so amazing to me is that after all of the talking about the platform and the method and even what the content was going to be that the artists were putting together, it's still so amazing to me that really what it came down to at the end was putting the artists together and then seeing the relationships that came out of that and seeing that the process was the outcome, which I think we had been really at the start looking around numbers, because that's usually how we measure things, like how many people in the audience, how many likes are we increasing. But it turned out that Global Music Match was not that. It was like the product was the relationships between the artists, which are still going, and I think we've only started to see the beginning of where those relationships are going. It's created a fellowship of 96 artists and 14 coaches, plus all of the different bodies. Even if people weren't in the same team, I think having that shared experience of being through it has created a really big network, much bigger than each person's individual team. So I know that was quite a lot, but there was a lot to talk and think about.
For those people who are watching who may not be quite so familiar with how it ended up being, we had 16 artists, 16 teams with 6 artists in each team, and they presented content to each other's social media audiences during the duration of the event. And that, I think, was, as Chloe said, very much what the project was about, but connecting with the artists was certainly the main outcome. But one of the other things, Chloe, I just want to kind of highlight before I go on to ask some of the artists what the experiences were, was in fact the role of the coaches, because to some extent in Global Music Match there were 3 very distinct roles. The roles of the export offices, who were having weekly meetings with their home teams. Like, so in Scotland's case, we had 12 bands or 12 artists who were part of that, and we met with them every week and looked at their needs, etc. There were the artists themselves as the creators, but there were also the team coaches, and you were one of the team coaches. And certainly at the beginning, we were very keen to see the coaches being artistic directors of festivals, able to benefit from the project as well by getting to know artists that they may not have previously known. And that was an important part of us developing the idea as export agencies. And you were one of the coaches. So I wonder if you could just give everyone who's watching a bit of an overview of what the role of the coaches was, and secondly, who some of the other coaches were. I mean, you're obviously an artistic director of one of the biggest, if not the biggest, folk festival in Australia, and some of the other coaches were also artistic directors as well. Can you just expand on that a wee bit?
Sure. So the coaching, I was just thinking about this. I was also a coach of coaches. So there was a fourth part as well. So with the project, I'm not sure how much information is being provided in the context of the video, so I'll just run through it a little. The project was that the 6 artists in the team over 6 weeks with a barrier week on either side would create content that promoted artists into each other's platforms. And then the way that it was kind of put together is that in week 1, everybody would promote the artist for week 1. So then they would have to kind of keep their heads up and keep promoting artists throughout the rest of the project. So because of the duration and because it was quite content heavy with 3 posts a week and trying to decide how to do that each week, plus the fact that artists didn't know each other, there was a little bit of guiding to do, especially because everybody was new to the project. If we'd started the project after 6 weeks, of course, it would have been a completely different setup. So the idea of having the coaches was to have somebody who would understand enough about what musicians would be likely to be going through, what it was that would need to be on display, so the work and some personality, and also who was familiar with the channels that it was going out through. So to be a coach, the idea was to check in with your team and make sure that everybody was on track, felt motivated, that things were going along in a way that honoured the contributions everyone was putting in, everyone was getting fair representation. And also, I think something that was really important was to keep reminding the artists that it was an artist-driven program. So really, at the end of it, you don't want to be doing something because your coach asked you to, unless it was, you know, part of the skeleton of the project. You needed to be doing it as an artist because it was something that was creatively fulfilling or was building on the relationship that you had with the other artists in your team. So the coach's job was not to be the boss of anything. It was to try to draw the artist's ideas out and make sure that everybody in the team felt empowered enough to deliver the best that they could in the circumstances. And the other thing was that the circumstances changed often. We had coaches from Australia, from Spain, from the UK, from Canada, all over the place, and everybody was in a completely different scenario. And so, you know, some people were still live gigging at the beginning. So, I mean, I spent a lot of time, weirdly, talking to the other coach from Australia, but we also had a coach's run. So Eddie, who I had known from a while ago from Cambridge, Stevie from Americana, Lisa and Glenn were the pilot coaches. I'm just trying to think, Lisa, I'm drawing a blank on the groups of the coaches, but it was really important that they were people who understood and really loved artists and wanted to see this project work well for them.
Yeah, thanks. I think that is very much the case. And Eddie, who you mentioned, who has been a friend of ours for a long time, and is the artistic director of the Cambridge Folk Festival, for example, is also one of the programmers for Glastonbury Festival, and also a festival called Underneath the Stars. And in fact, Lisa Schwartz, president of Folk Alliance International, was a coach, and she was the coach for Lady Nade. So I wonder if we could just talk to you, Lady Nade, a wee bit about what your experience was of Global Music Match. I think it's interesting for the viewers to hear a wee bit about your background, how much international work you had done. I mean, I know that your debut album was launched in Union Chapel, I think, London in 2017. So how did you find the whole experience of Global Music Match? I think you need to unmute, Lady Nade. Sorry.
Hey! Hi, Lisa. Yes, thank you so much. I had an amazing time, and I made such wonderful connections prior to the Global Music Match, and before lockdown, I'd been hosting a night called Lady Sings, which ran for 16 months, and it was all about bringing artists together and empowering acts, particularly female acts, and focused on gender balance. And I was about to embark on a tour, and I had like 54 shows cancelled. So what Global Music Match helped me achieve was to develop an online capability to make vital connections during a time of such social distancing, and that has been truly fundamental to my personal growth and health and well-being as a musician. I was just on the cusp of starting to do more international touring, and so to be able to travel virtually to Italy and Scotland and Wales and Australia and Taiwan was incredible. I was in Taiwan in January, and it was great because what happened is that the translator from the Taiwan artist, I actually met him in Taiwan at a show, and so it was just amazing that these connections were being kept up throughout the project, and now I'm in part of a group with the England team because we had we were in different teams, and I was proud to be selected to be one of the artists to represent England in the Global Music Match. So as well as having the team with my artists in team 2, I also was in the England group, and from that group I now am in a fortnightly, weekly meetup group with them, and the social media and the not only connections and collaboration through music, but learning how new skills, and then having that opportunity to continue like a support network has just been an amazing experience.
And you mentioned the new skills that you'd learned. I think that was an outcome that many of the artists felt they'd learned, just the process of whitelisting on social media and video editing and all sorts. So I know that Marta, you were in the almighty group. You were in Team 16, and the reason I say that is that Team 16 was full of artists who had quite serious social media numbers.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the group where you had the largest number of social media followers in Team 16.
I actually didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you had some really interesting conversations and collaborations, and a lot of your team were very busy launching their own projects, whether it was releasing albums or singles or whatever, and yet you still felt it was important to connect as a team and to find time for you to post about each other, even although you all had single releases or album releases. Can you tell us a wee bit about that experience?
Yeah, actually, I think you're right. We were together for so many weeks that so many things happened in those weeks. So we were at the beginning very much into these meetings and making our interviews and taking care of everything. But suddenly, I think the summer, we started, some of us, to have some gigs, and we had to we had to combine the gigs with the meetings, and especially what was more work, it was the these interviews that we actually also had to translate, because our audience was Spanish, so it became very funny because we were always there. We didn't want to miss any of these meetings, and we wanted to. We also felt very responsible to give every artist their time and their promotion in our social media. So sometimes we were maybe in very strange places doing these conversations, and it became a little bit crazy. Not only for Las Migas, also for Skerrivore. I think they also were quite busy, as you said. But we all understood very good the situation of everybody, and we actually had a lot of fun for Las Migas. And for me, this was a very important experience, also because we had something to do, and we felt, as Lady Nade said, we were connected in other ways with the world. But also it made me feel that we can continue now with these relationships, and we met our team very good. But I'm always looking for the other artists. So if we go now to one of those countries one day, I want to meet the artists, and I want to meet the coaches. And it's like something that for us it's important, and we, as a Spanish band or Catalan band, we feel very lucky because there are so many nice bands here, and we were chosen for this. So we are just very thankful for this whole experience, even that sometimes it was a bit hard, because what I said before, we had to combine the work, like our work. We actually did maybe 5-6 gigs in the summer. Suddenly in Spain, things became a little bit better for a few weeks, but I don't regret at all. We learned so many things. Also, we learned to interview people. We learned how to talk, even to speak a little bit better our English, because we didn't understand the people from Glasgow, for example. I was crazy. I needed always a translator or whatever, because I said, I'm sorry, I don't understand you, So it was an amazing experience.
I think for me, that was one of the funniest moments when, we had artists from Taiwan and Spain and Brittany, and actually the artists that most people couldn't understand were the Scottish ones.
Totally.
I thought that was very funny. But I think that was one of the powerful moments of Global Music Match, was that you feel, I think you're saying to me, Marta, that you feel that even although you have not met people personally, you've almost become closer to those people because of the length of time you were working together. Yeah. And I can see Charly nodding away. So Charly, do you maybe just want to expand on that slightly, the connection?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Charly Lowry coming to you from Turtle Island in the United States. I'm from the southeastern part of North Carolina, in the land of the Lumbee, Tuscarora, and Sherrall peoples. And Lady Nade, my community is actually called Union Chapel community here in North Carolina. And that just reflects upon the connections that I made with some of my teammates on Team 7. I had a band, Farah from Scotland, and some of the other artists have mentioned the interviews that we conducted. We were tasked with interviewing each other from week to week and showcasing, a different artist each week. But Farah from Scotland, just talking about my last name being Lowry and the connections of my people, my ancestors from Scotland that came over and, married and intertwined with the indigenous peoples here. And it's just amazing to be able to make those types of connections through the computer and with hopes of actually meeting our teammates in person someday. And speaking more on the connections, I'm excited to continue to drive this global music match vehicle with my friends from Australia, the band The Heart Collectors. I feel like we're kindred spirits, and I can't wait to meet them in person. We're writing songs together, and it was just a great experience overall, as far as also pushing me as an artist. I'll be straight up. Sometimes I get into moods where I'm just a horrible slacker, but as signing up for Global Music Match, there was no time to slack around. There was always something to do and ways of bettering yourself as an artist. And it connected with me. The program connected with me in a different way, because when we started the program, I was entering a time of transition in my life. I just received a kidney transplant back in April. And I think we started maybe in August. And I was even pursuing a career or pursuing work as a laborer on a construction site in pursuit of my general contractor's license. And the program just helped me to realign my vision for what I wanted for myself as an artist. And being, as an independent musician, it helped me to be a better advocate for myself as an artist and to push myself more and learning those new skills. And the great thing about connecting with my teammates is that we were all on the same page, and we were all in discovery together along with our coach. So I'm grateful. I'll be forever grateful for the program and the opportunity.
And I think that's amazing. And it's not over, as you say, it's not over yet.
No, yeah.
Are still very, very much there. And Svavar, I kind of just moving on a wee bit from what Charly was saying there, like the connections and the collaborations that have come out of Global Music Match have been incredible. And Group One, I think you've done quite a lot of collaborations, and some of them have had an awful lot of social media views. Do you want to just explain a bit about how those collaborations came about? And I know that you're continuing to do them, so just help fill people in a bit about how important collaborating as a big group was.
Yes, thank you. Well, I'm completely on the wagon with all my previous speakers about how we learned so many new things and how we're forced to grow, and it's amazing. You were just pushed out of your comfort zone so much, and I love that. And this really brought out a lot of talents that I needed to grow and develop. And I think a lot of us had this idea that we wanted to kind of cover each other's songs, but it quickly kind of developed into this, maybe we should like do just backing vocals with each other, or just do like a little bit of instrument or whatever. So everyone kind of brought their stuff to the table, and it was like in like a week, by week 3 we were already kind of on that, and that was like the thing that we were really into. And we did a Scottish folk song together. We did Andy's Aiden Town's song "Leave It Alone." We almost all of us got in on that, and Tiana May, a song by CGS, our Italian friends. We also all got on it, and the girls got on Fanny Lumsden's song. And it was, basically, and we were doing both big and small collaborations, and it was just so much fun. And it was, that was also one of the things that I had never done before, and it was so exciting to learn this new skill of just doing your part, and then just like recording, putting in the video, and then kind of assembling all of this when everyone else sent something in. And that was, I think, for me, like a really exciting thing that I had never tried before, and it really pulled out you know, like things in me that I did not know was there. I also, talking about the interviews, I developed some skills. Like I had never done anything like pictures. I'd never done anything with this visual art. So I started just challenging myself. And this is Eddie. This is our coach Eddie with his cat. I made like a little figure of him, and you can like move it. And we did these little animations where everybody was dancing and moving around. That was a lot of fun.
That's amazing for the people that don't know Eddie. That's really very good.
Pretty
cat.
accurate.
He has a cat.
It's a little kitty. Yeah.
And do you know what, Svavar? I think that actually sums it up. I know at the beginning of Global Music Match, I remember kind of sitting in or spying, like in some of the first ever team meetings, and people were quite bit apprehensive and didn't know each other. And then by the end of it, here you are drawing figurines of one of the programmers of the Glastonbury Festival. So I think that the team kinship and camaraderie, like between all of the artists, has been absolutely superb. And I think that, you know, as export offices, that's ultimately what we're about. You know, we're about trying to use our resources to help connect artists and for our artists to grow. And the best way that can be done is to listen to the creativity of people. And I think also it's about breaking down barriers of language, breaking down barriers of fear, of not knowing each other, and using music as that connector and binding force that we all know music is. And I think that Global Music Match has done that. I just think, I wonder if people want to expand a wee bit on some of the knowledge beyond. Chloe, yeah, can you come?
I was actually just going to say that I think it's really funny. I feel even like being in this panel that Global Music Match is continuing because we're all part of it. I'm getting to know another round of people. It actually feels like the type of thing that's probably just going to keep going forever now. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about being a coach, and I think a lot of the other coaches enjoyed this too, and as well as the artists, is that while our industry was kind of falling apart in some ways, the chance to really connect in a very honest way with artists and with other directors and agents, I feel like that gave me a lot of hope that we would be rebuilding a bit more of an honest face for the industry, because there was no room for a spirit of competition. There was no room for smoke and mirrors. There were definite challenges, but because they were so immediate, they just had to be worked out really honestly. And so you couldn't kind of hide behind, not that you would want to, but you couldn't hide behind contracts or your agent or your manager. Like everything just needed to be worked out. And I have probably missed that in my own work in the way that we've moved forward. So I really appreciate that about Global Music Match, the chance to get to know artists in a different way again and build the community in a different way. I don't know if you felt that too, artists.
Yeah, I think we're all vulnerable. We were all feeling very vulnerable and just open to, you know, everybody, whether it was an artist or creative director, you're trying to figure out how you're going to make your next move. So there was that vulnerability in bringing us all together. And it should continue. The program should continue and keep going. Yeah. Connecting people all over the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, you know, speaking as an export office, but also as someone who works, you know, in the industry as an agent, I found it very, very inspiring. I mean, I met people, I met colleagues in export offices who I have never met before in my life. You know, I could have been at a conference, you know, like Folk Alliance or many of the other conferences, and walked past people and kind of said hello. And I know that now, the next time I see them, I won't just walk past them and say hello. I'll know them. I know who they are. I know what they do. I mean, we had a situation, I was blown away by the cooperation of the export offices as well. I mean, I really was. And so many of them will be, you know, taking part of Folk Unlocked and will be here during these few days. And I was just blown away by it. I mean, the you know, Taiwan Lookfest ended up showcasing a reel of Scottish artists that would never have been performed in Taiwan before. And I know they did that with other countries. And I think that all of the spin-offs, the lasting relationships, you know, the new ways of working, and those new contacts and relationships are never going to vanish. They're going to be there. And yeah, myself and Millie Milgate might have been friends, and that might have been the very first telephone call. But my goodness, like, there's a whole host of like new friends that we've got all around the world. And I think that collaboration of working globally with export agencies is something very new, and something to really aspire to. Chloe, did you feel that with any of the you know, being an artistic director of a festival? Did you feel that there was also a connection between the festival directors about how things were in each country, and you know?
Yes, I mean, I think that we are incredibly lucky in the folkier side of things anyway, in that we talk a lot and there's not much competition. You know, you're stoked if somebody pulls something off, but while everybody was really looking at survival, it was amazing to have that kind of network of people talking about what they were doing, how their festivals were moving on. I remember when we first started Global Music Match, Lisa Schwartz was working on the digital version for Philadelphia Folk Festival. And, you know, that's her heart as well, and her way to be wanting everybody to be able to make use of this technology. And so, you know, I think that's what I meant before when I was just saying having that type of contact made me feel like, oh, we're all going to be okay, because everyone's just trying to help each other rise up out of this. And I also think it's funny, as an artistic director, I don't know how this would have gone otherwise, but being so embedded in the project, you become aware of artists in a different way than if you're just kind of looking through things or attending events or listening to music. I hope that's the way that we kind of keep programming. But I was just thinking, Marta, like Dustin from Port Fairy, looking at bringing you out, he mentioned that. I said, oh my gosh, yes, you should connect them with these friends of mine who have a flamenco, like, big touring company. Those kind of connections, imagine how many of those there are through the 96 artists, 14 coaches and export bodies. So I think the strengthening of the foundations for the parts of the industry I'm involved in, I feel very confident after Global Music Match, which is hilarious because that was not a strategic outcome that we'd hoped for or predicted or anything like that. So I feel selfishly grateful. I was in it for the artists, but I've ended up getting so much out of it. I
think that's the funny thing. I mean, the initial expectations of what Global Music Match would be, the outcomes are actually like way, way, way beyond that. So there must have been some funny moments as well. There must have been, I'm kind of looking at the artists here. There must have been some funny moments within your group. What were your favorite collaborations, and how many times, what was the longest, how many takes did you have to do to get an interview? What was the longest number of takes someone had to do before their interview was done? I'm going to go to Lady Nade.
Oh yeah, just thinking about some really funny moments now. But there was a really funny moment where Riley Pierce was trying to interview me, and everything would just seem to go wrong on this particular day. So my mic First of all, it took me like 5-10 minutes to get my mic to work, and then like my camera went, and then I just remember it just being really chaotic, and he's in Australia, and so our time zones were completely different. And I just remember having to just stop to hear him and say, "Sorry, can we just record that again? Can we record that again? Can we record that again?" And we did it so many times that he said that he's got like this amazing series of like bloopers that he's just gonna put together. But I'm not looking forward to seeing that when he releases it. But there are wonderful moments. One of my team got married in the process, and a couple of us released music in the process, and a couple of us were recording. So it was really nice being not only collaborating and interviewing each other, but also being able to be part of each other's lives, especially when we were going through social distancing, and for some of us that meant not being able to see anyone apart from the people that we connected with or have been connecting with online. So it was very special to be part of moments like a wedding, and
and I think there were also quite a lot of animal moments. I think everybody got to meet everyone else's pet.
Yeah. I met, because that's funny with Eddie, because the cat talk just, I know him with his cat now, because not only that, you start to hear about each other's groups through the grapevine, and you hear what's going on. It's really funny to sort of put it all together as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's brilliant to have like those laughs, and I think they'll continue. But also, as Marta was saying earlier, like it is quite a commitment. I mean, it's a serious project. It's a fun, way to meet people, and I think it's pretty obvious that everyone involved that's talking on this panel really loved it. But it does require commitment. And Marta, you were one of the artists that were gigging during the time, but you still said that you felt it was important to find that time. Do you want to just talk a wee bit about how you did that and what the workload felt like when you were also out touring?
Well, at the beginning, I tried to just do it myself, because I thought I could do it, and it was not much work. But I think after the first week, I realized that I could not. I had to ask help to my whole band, because we had to prepare the interviews, we had to translate, we had to do the video setting, whatever. We had to put. There were too many things, but it was very nice, because at the beginning they didn't know so much what we were doing. I was the one. We are a 4 girls band. So I was the one who could speak a little bit better English. So I was in the meetings, but as soon as they started to be in the interviews, they became really friends of everybody, and they had their favorites. My favorite is Calvin Arsinia, or we had also Jimmy Rankin, who is so sweet man, and so we all, at the end, we were very organized, and we got also a lot of help from Mar, from Catalan Arts. And so we were a very organized team of women doing a lot of things, and then we were so proud when we had our interviews or pictures or whatever, and a lot of people from Las Migas media, they were asking, what are you doing and who are these people? Like they were all kind of jealous, I think, the people in Spain, because we were in some kind of thing that with so many artists. So yeah, it was a lot of work, as you said, but totally worth it. And also what you said before, that we are now preparing our first Australian tour, and this is really amazing, because I could not believe it. Like Justin already put us in contact with other people there, like with some bookers who are organizing the tour. So now, after this experience, what I feel is that the world is very small suddenly, like to think about Canada or Glasgow, to think about Taiwan, these countries. Before, it was like maybe one day we go there. And now I'm just waiting till this pandemic is over, and I think, okay, I'm sure we will visit many of those countries, because it looks like it's small, the world, and this makes me so happy.
And I guess it's really about like when you're releasing an album, when you're doing an album release, you have multiple interviews to do within a week. You often have promo gigs to do. You might have in-stores to do. So for artists that are thinking about Global Music Match Round 2, which we'll come on to shortly, but for anyone like watching this panel, what would you say to an artist in terms of what to expect and any top tips? Charly, have you? Well, let's go to you for that one.
I'm trying to think here, and I remember having a slight learning curve myself, and with us being, going through social distancing and going through the pandemic, it makes you more aware of maybe the way that the music industry is heading. Not sure if it's permanently but I feel like there are models that we found during this time that should move forward. And so for any artist that's interested in joining the Global Music Match or curious about it, I would say to stay abreast on video editing software, lighting, recording, being able to record yourself, watching some tutorials on that, and just make sure you're able to commit that much amount of time to the program.
I think
going into it, I really didn't know what to expect. I mean, from the initial email, I didn't know to expect the workload, but I'm glad that it was part of the criteria, because I did learn a lot. So
yeah, and also there's a lot of those assets. I mean, to be honest, I don't think any of us knew what to expect going into the first project. Yeah. It was the first time we've all done it. But there are, like, for future artists, like, there are all the assets now. There's all the how to and what to do all on the website, like that whole toolkit. What about the rest of you? What would be your kind of any tips or suggestions to potential round number 2 artists? No.
Well, Chloe.
You go first, Svavar, and then we'll come to Chloe.
All right. I was actually asked to do a presentation a couple of weeks ago about the lessons from COVID, lessons from this time, and I used the Global Music Match quite a lot as like the foundation for that presentation. And one of the things, you have to be ready to grind, like do the work, put your head under you. But the main thing I got from this was this, what has been like this thread, this red thread throughout everything everyone's been saying, the friendships, the building up of trust, that you're doing the work, they're doing the work, we're working together, making something happen. And it made me philosophize on this idea. I just contemplated on it. Don't hate the player, hate the game is like this thing they always say. The game is capitalism. Don't hate the player, hate the game. So maybe I just hate the game. Let's stop playing Monopoly, where everybody's trying to beat each other, and let's start playing Dungeons and Dragons, where there's different people coming together, saving the world, beating the dragons and exploring the dungeons and, you know, everyone growing, everyone gaining experience and becoming better together. It's so much more fun than Monopoly. So I think that would be my takeaway from the whole experiment.
That is going to be the next PR quote. It's more fun than Monopoly.
Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah.
Chloe, yeah, you wanted to add something.
I love that sentiment so much. And also what Charlie said earlier about we're all in discovery together. And that links in with what I would say to artists wanting to be part of it, which is that even though there's a structure to it, you have X amount of time to create something that has some little borders around it, but actually there's so much space for creativity in there. So once you get in, don't think it has to be exactly what you think it is at first. That's a bit convoluted, but the right thing to do, I think, would be to say, maybe we could, or what about this? This would be fun. This would feel creative. You don't have to look at the things that are written on the sheet and go, okay, I guess I'll just do that for 6 weeks. You can expand, you can bend. There's so much room because it's for the artists. And so it needs to be something that represents you and adds value to what you're doing. Don't do it for the coaches, don't do it for your export body, do it for yourself and your team.
I think that that's actually really valuable. And I remember one of an earlier meeting a few months ago where I think someone mentioned, you know, the level of upskilling that this can provide for artists. I mean, if you were to kind of look at the skills, I think that were offered to artists, you know, it may have been, you know, the same as going to college for a whole duration, or the cost of like a whole term's semester, all condensed into short moments. And Lady Nade, you said that, you know, you were one of the ones talking early on about like the upskilling and the resources that you felt you got as a result of being on the project. Would you agree with that? Do you think that you were given information and assets that otherwise you may not have had access to?
Yeah, definitely. My social media growth really shot up. I saw the difference from the start of the campaign, and actually I released a single during the time, and yeah, more likes on my Spotify, more people adding songs to their Spotify playlists, Facebook growth, Instagram growth, mailing list growth, Twitter growth. So across the board, the exposure was absolutely brilliant, and that was through a result of social media skills that I'd learned, and the collaboration and having a team working, pushing your music to their fan base, so the cross-pollination of all that as well.
So we are looking at launching round number 2 of Global Music Match. And for people that are watching this panel, the very end of Folk Unlocked, the very last day, an additional day, is a very special edition of the Global Music Marathon. And we hope that you'll tune into that to see a lot of the amazing collaborations and artists that form part of Global Music Match round 1. Round 2 will be launched, and what to do is, if you're interested in participating as an artist in round 2, look up the Global Music Match website, and information as to how to do that will be coming very, very soon. So I'd just like to say a huge, massive thank you to all of the panelists. Well, actually, no, you're just friends now.
Yes.
So all of our friends, and also to Folk Unlocked for the support that they've provided Global Music Match with, not only in this panel, but as being one of the export agencies who were involved, and also in the support with the Global Music Marathon, which I, for one, am absolutely desperate to see. So I just want to say thank you very much to Folk Alliance, and I think hand back over to Alex, who's on mute.
Take two. I need some of those social media skills we talked about. So what a great panel. I just want to take a minute to thank our panelists, Charly, Lady Nade, Svavar, Marta, Dan, Lisa, and Chloe, and especially to Lisa for pulling this panel together. This panel will continue to be available as a recording on the Folk Unlocked platform all week. And please do take a moment to provide feedback about today's offering by posting comments in the chat. Finally, Folk Unlocked is made available at a pay-what-you-can price point thanks to the generosity of donors that help Folk Alliance International year-round. If you would like to support our work, donations can be made at folk.org/donate. So stay safe and connected, community, and we will see you soon.